Sheffield United are finally beaten and QPR drop to the bottom of the Championship, losing once again. Here's my roundup of round 10 of the Championship. So we're going to start off on Friday night at Elland Road. It was a brilliant win for Leeds United, beating Sheffield United by 2-0 in what was definitely, without doubt, a top of the league clash between two sides who are definitely going to be there by the end of the season. But it was Leeds United who come out on top, and I think it says a lot that Sheffield United tried to do something different to combat Leeds in this game, albeit it didn't work out very well for Sheffield United. I don't think there's much to read into from their point of view. I think they tried something different, it didn't work. They've went to Elland Road, lost 2-0. Listen, there's nothing to be ashamed of going to Elland Road and getting beat by this Leeds team. It is only their first defeat in 10. You know, they're the last team to lose in the league. So it's all about how Sheffield United bounce back. And of course, they're heading to the Riverside, which should be a load of fun. But Leeds United, as I've said many, many times, although they've not been at the top of the league yet this season, they are still the team I look at and fancy to, once they go on a run, I can't see them stopping. I just think they'll be like a runaway train, and they are still by far the most convincing and likely team to run away with what is currently still quite an open league. So a great win for Leeds. Sheffield United, not much to worry about. Cardiff 5, Plymouth 0. Holy hell, what a result for Cardiff. And to be fair, it's been a decent turnaround, you know, given the sacking of Errol Bullets. 3 games without defeat for Cardiff now. 2 wins in that period. I'd be interested to actually hear from any Cardiff fans watching whether they think Omar Riza deserves to keep the job, because he's certainly doing all he can, I think, to give himself a shot at the Cardiff job. I mean, caveat, yes, Plymouth were down to 10 men after 41 minutes. It was a stupid reaction from Sissoko which got himself sent off, but Cardiff were already 2-0 up at that point, and I think, yeah, the scoreline would definitely was exceeded a little bit down to that red card, but Cardiff capitalised, put a few goals past Plymouth, and that will do them the world of good in terms of their confidence. So it's a fantastic result from them. However, Plymouth keep doing what Plymouth kind of do. They win at home, they lose away. Now, if that's enough for them to stay up this season, then absolutely fair enough, but I think just to make sure they give themselves the best possible chance, as we've said many times so far this season, their away form simply has to get better. Luton 3, Watford 0. What a result for Luton Town in the derby that I'm going to be brutally honest, I don't know the name of. But yeah, this was a fantastic win from Luton, and it's exactly what they needed. And you think it's the perfect tonic to get their season finally up and running. You know, you go into a derby game like this, Watford off the back of a good win against Boro, Luton whose season just can't get going. You'd think Watford will be going into this one, you know, seeing blood and thinking, wow, what a chance this could be to, you know, really, you know, pile the misery onto our derby rivals. But Luton retaliated in fantastic fashion. It was a brilliant win for them. I think it just highlights Watford's inconsistencies, which still have me holding back on them, to be honest with you. They're still 8th and they've still had a good start, but, you know, they've won 5, lost 4. I think they're just very up, very down. I think that will, as I keep saying, that will level out to them being a mid-table side this season. And you know what, for Luton, we'll see. We'll see what happens and what comes from this. You know, I remember when they beat Sheffield Wednesday a good few weeks ago. I think they come from behind and everyone thought this was finally the start to the season that Luton were looking for. They then went and lost 2 of the next 3. So, listen, if there's any result that's going to kickstart Luton's season, it's this one. However, if this doesn't kickstart their season, and if this is another false dawn, then I don't know when their season is going to get going. So it all depends on how they build on this, and if they build on this, and if this is just yet another false dawn in Luton's stop-start to the season. Oxford 1, West Brom 1, another cracking result for Oxford. You know, going up against West Brom, who are one of the best teams, have been one of the best teams thus far this season. They just continue to be very, very competitive. They continue to fight their corner and prove that they are good enough to compete and give the best teams in this league a really, really good game. And yes, it took a 92nd minute equaliser here, but when you look at the chances created, it was a relatively even game between the two. So it's a well-deserved point from what I can gather from Oxford, and I'm just delighted for them. I really am delighted for how they've started this season. West Brom, not too many alarm bells to be raised. They've gone winless in the last 4, losing 2. I think it was always going to happen, and I've said this about all the teams that started the season really well. There will be a slump. There will be a slight regression, but it's all about how quickly they can get back on the horse and how quickly they can get back on track. They head to Blackburn next, and Blackburn are brilliant at Ewood Park, so that is a juicy game midweek to see whether West Brom can get back on track quickly. Preston 1, Coventry 0. I don't know what to say about Coventry. I really, really don't, and I think things have finally took a turn at the CBS. I think things have finally snapped a little bit. I did see a video going around of Robbins and some Coventry fans, I believe. There might have been a bit of a confrontation there. Correct me if I'm wrong, Coventry fans, but, we've had 2 international breaks now, 2 opportunities for them to dust themselves down, come back stronger, and it's just not happened again. They've gone to Preston, and granted, Preston are unbeaten at home under Heckingbottom, so it's becoming a difficult place to go, which it should be, Deepdale. But still, Coventry, not good enough. 1 shot on target in the whole game. They were battered in terms of shots, XG. I just don't know what to say about Coventry at this moment in time. I think Mark Robbins is surviving off of the credit he has in the bank, and rightfully so. I think he's been an outstanding manager and is without doubt one of the best in the Championship, but when does he start getting asked the question? When do questions seriously start to get asked? Because, we say 10-game mark is when you really start to take notice of the league table, and Coventry are outside the bottom 3 on nothing other than goal difference. So I think given the money spent, this isn't just another bad start to the season to which Coventry recover from. It feels a little bit worse than that, and I still feel like they will come good eventually, and I still feel like things will turn for Coventry, but it depends on the patience within the fan base and the owners, because once you lose the fans especially, most of the time there's no way back. So Coventry are a team I definitely am going to keep a close eye on, because if they lose Robbins, things could turn massively one way, or they could go drastically wrong, because they've not been without Mark Robbins in such a long time. It would be a giant risk to get rid of him. So this is a crucial period for Coventry. The owners have to either hold their nerve or pull the trigger and take a giant gamble on somebody else. It's going to be really, really interesting. But Preston, you know what? They're picking up. They've lost only once in the last 5, 2 wins in the last 3, starting to keep the goals out as well. I think they've had a clean sheet in each of the last 3 games as well. So yeah, Paul Heckingbottom's doing what we expected of him. He's getting Preston up the league table. Blackburn 1, Swansea 0. Blackburn do what Blackburn do at Ewood Park, and that is, win. I think that's all you've got to say about Blackburn, really. They're a fantastic team at home. They do have to improve on the road. The last 2 defeats prior come to Plymouth and Coventry on the road, but they're just bulletproof at Ewood Park, and I think that will prop them up a little bit, I would say. I think until their away form picks up, I'm not going to be that excited about Blackburn, but yeah, from what I could gather in this game, they got a goal early and then defended it pretty well. Swansea, as they always do, had a lot of possession, 14 shots. They did have twice as much XG as Blackburn, but they only mustered 2 shots on target, so I think it was a case of Swansea trying to get back into the game without ever having that cutting edge. But I think it's good for Blackburn to take the lead against a team like Swansea, who will have a lot of the ball and hang on with another clean sheet. So it's another brilliant home win for them. Swansea, this just sort of reads into what I think of Swansea, and that's that their games are very, very low scoring. They've won 3, drawn 3, lost 4. I think that will continue, and they'll just pretty much remain where they are, and that's smack bang in the middle of the league. Boro 0, Bristol City 2. Oh dear, I'm not going to go into this because I'm sick of talking about it. It's basically the same rerun of everything I've said about Boro in every Roundup video thus far. If you want to see my true thoughts, there is a almost half an hour breakdown and review of the whole game on this YouTube channel, so please check that out if you want to know more. But it was exactly what we've seen of Boro all season long. Miss a big chance, gift the opposition goals, and then spend the rest of the game with all of the ball doing absolutely piss all with it. That's exactly what happened once again. Like, I laughed Mr. Sitter in the first half. He's having a awful goal drought now and is being questioned massively. And we gifted Bristol City both goals via two terrible pieces of play in our own half with two terrible passes that we were punished for. It does feel like Boro are being punished for every single error that we're making at the moment, but that will happen in football. You simply have to stop and cut out all these terrible errors, which we're just not doing, and we continue to be incredibly wasteful in front of goal. And for the first time, the atmosphere and the thoughts around Michael Carrick has took a slight turn. They've not completely turned, but there is starting to be a little bit of uneasiness around Boro fandom at the moment, and with our fixtures coming up, things could start to spiral if things don't even themselves out and turn quickly. So not good for Boro at all. As for Bristol City, this is their first win away from home. I mean, of course it was. They always win at the Riverside anyway, and, you know, on a lighter note, as a neutral, which is how I approach these videos, it was a great win for them. For Liam Manning, who, of course, tragically lost his young son in the days leading up to this game. So, you know, the banners before and after the game between the Bristol City fans and the players were absolutely fantastic. And I hope this result gave him and his family a crumb of comfort in what I'm sure has been a very, very difficult time. So as much as a Boro fan, it was awful for me to see us lose this game. As a neutral, it was a great result for Bristol City, and as I say, I hope it brought Liam Manning and his family a little bit of joy in what I'm sure is a terrible, terrible time. Millwall 1, Derby County 1. Now, I think Millwall would have probably been furious to have lost this game from what I gathered. They seem to be by far the better team. More possession, more chances, more shots, but they almost lost it, and you know, it came from the vintage Derby County away performance. You know, as we've seen from Derby on the road, they don't really offer much, and their only threat comes from set plays, and that's exactly where the goal came from. Jerry Yates on the 78th minute scored with what was Derby's only shot on target from a corner. That's Derby's strength, but they didn't get away with all 3 points as Millwall equalised later on, and I think that's the least they deserve. But equally, Millwall, just looking at Derby's away form, I think this is a game Millwall really, if they want to be taken seriously, should be looking to win. And I didn't quite realise how far down the league Millwall were. I just recall them having a good start, to which they were unlucky at times. They were scoring loads of goals, but were somehow finding a way to not win games. And I remember thinking, things will come good, the data's looking good around Millwall. And I looked at their league table and I thought, what on earth has happened here? They're 20th. Yeah, I don't know how that has happened. Things maybe look a little bit bleaker than maybe I thought with Millwall at this moment in time, but I'm still not overly worried about them. Derby, I like a lot of teams in this league. For me, I like a little bit like Plymouth. You know, they might be okay relying on their home form, which is extremely strong, but I think just to be safe, they do need to start improving on the road. QPR 1, Portsmouth 2, another team who I didn't realise were having such a shocking time, and that is QPR, who we'll get onto in a minute. But Pompey have won a game, ladies and gentlemen. Portsmouth have won their first game of the season. Thank the Lord. I mean, they needed it, didn't they? You know, they'd gotten through that horribly tough 7-game start, and you think they would have then started to pick up points they deserved, or you think they'd earned against Stoke and Oxford, to which they still didn't, you know, drawing against Oxford and losing terribly to Stoke. So it's massive that Pompey got this win. It's massive, I think, as well, that it was on the road, and I think the fact that they come from behind as well, I just think there are a lot of really good positives to take away from this win, and I think hopefully for their sake, their season can really, really get going now. As for QPR, I didn't realise how badly of a run, or how bad of a run they were actually on. They've lost 4 games in a row. They've not won since they beat Luton, which feels like an absolute age. They're conceding goals to... Yeah, I didn't quite gauge how bad things were at QPR. Winless in 7, and I think, as I was saying, with the nature of how this game was won, the nature with how it was lost is also going to really hit QPR that little bit harder. Dembele giving them the leads. They should really be doing better from there. And the penalty they gave up was quite a clumsy one looking back at the replays. And although I think the game looked even in terms of chances created for both sides, QPR, again, another game where they should be doing better. Losing at home to Pompey, it's not great for them. And I am going to be keeping a close eye on what happens there, because Cifuentes got them out of some deep trouble last season. He might have to look to do something similar if their luck and form doesn't change quickly. So yeah, a very, very bad result for them, but a very, very good one for Pompey. Sheffield Wednesday 0, Burnley 2, a very solid win for Burnley, who were quietly going about their business. I think at the start of the season, looking at their data, they just weren't all that convincing, but I'm starting to get Sheffield United vibes from them now. You know, they're just getting the job done, not flash, you know, they're not blowing teams away like they were to start with, but they're just professionally doing their job, taking their chances, not conceding goals is a big, big one too. I think this is the 4th clean sheet in a row for Burnley as well, so yeah, it's a very, very good run that they're on, and it's a very, very good win for them too. Puts them up to 2nd in the league. They just keep doing what Scott Parker teams do. They just keep finding a way. Sheffield Wednesday, I don't think, can judge their season too much on this defeat. You know, they'd won 2 of their last 3 prior to this game, with some good wins in there against West Brom, Coventry, etc. So, yeah, not too much to worry about for them, although I still feel like they'll be wanting to get themselves away from the bottom 3. This isn't a result I think they'll be judging their season on too much when the season is over in May. Stoke 1, Norwich 1. Very good point for Stoke, this. And, you know, Narcis Palacios is doing all right at Stoke. You know, they are in their usual position of 16th, which they've been occupying for the last 38 years, it feels. But they're undefeated in their last 3, you know, 2 draws in the last 2, followed by, you know, that fantastic win at home to Pompey. So, yeah, he's steadying the ship at Stoke. And I think all they need is just a nice, quiet, drama-free period where they can just grow, develop slowly. It doesn't have to be extreme one way or the other. And I think he's just quieting things down there, and I'm hoping Stoke can quietly just get on with the business at hand now. I still don't think they're going to do anything special this season. They probably will finish exactly where they're at right now, but I think he has just calmed things down amongst all the chaos and the change, and we'll see if he can keep that up. The 1-1 draw at home to Norwich is a fantastic result, you know, given Norwich's form of late. Norwich, of course, have really sort of caught fire under their new manager of late. They're unbeaten in the last 5, maybe even beyond that too. And although it's a draw on the road, which I think in this league is still a good point. So, although Norwich will have wanted to win this game, I still think going to Stoke and getting a point isn't the worst. And I don't think it's a bad point for Stoke either. And finally, Hull 0, Sunderland 1. Sunderland just continue. They just continue to pick up results, and they're giving me the aura of that team where every season you say, nah, they'll run out of steam eventually. Nah, they won't keep this up. And then they just keep it up. Saw it with Ipswich last season. We've seen it before. They might just be that team who just don't go away. They just do not let up. And they happen to find themselves in the mix come the end of the season because they're just very, very good in both boxes. You know, they're scoring goals, 19 goals they've scored in the league, which I think is the most in the league at the moment, and they've only conceded 8 as well, which is amongst one of the best. They're just doing all the right things. They're getting the right results. I do think there was maybe a degree of fortune with a potential handball on Chris Mepham that might have got Sunderland out of jail a little bit, but by the momentum from what I could gather, it looked like they dominated the first half. Hull did come back into it second half, but Sunderland capitalised on a really bad error at the back, and to take nothing away from Isidore's run, it was a fantastic run, and to compose himself at the end and finish in the way he did was brilliant too. And you know, this is a Hull City side who started to really come into their own over the last few games, so going there and winning isn't as easy as it sounds. So it's a brilliant away win for Sunderland, and it's the sort of, you know, narrow win that makes the difference. And you see all these top promotion fighting teams, you see them pull out a result like this. You know, a complacent team, maybe like this one, might have drew that game or failed to take the chance and pounce on the mistake when it was presented to them. But Sunderland did. They took advantage and they come away with all 3 points and they returned to the top of the Championship. And Hull are an interesting one because they were just starting to catch fire and you think, okay, here we go. You know, they were scoring goals, won 3 in a row, but then went and lost twice without scoring. So, yeah, definitely a team to keep an eye on. Maybe they are just going to be that sort of streaky team, you see. They'll win a few and then they'll lose a few. We'll see. So, finishing off, and this is something we will now do because we're at the 10-game mark, we will start reviewing and having a little look at the league table at the end of these roundup videos. And as you can see, Sunderland and Burnley are the top 2 at this moment in time. Leeds are right up there. As I say, are a team who I just think will, when they get in front, disappear into the sunset. Sheffield United would be right up there and would be even closer if it wasn't for their points deduction. You expect West Brom to be there too, and Blackburn have had a great start, but I am expecting a few of the teams chasing to maybe start entering the playoff race. I think the top 5 are all definitely going to be up there, and Norwich might join them. Obviously, there are massive question marks around Boro. I just don't think there's a team below 7th that convince me at all that they can put a run together to get in to the playoffs. You know, you've got teams even all the way down to Luton, Coventry, you think might come good at some point. Bristol City, who knows? But yeah, every team from Watford down, I think are very, very inconsistent. It's only the top 7 which I think are looking like they have any sort of consistency to put a playoff push together. So we'll see if that can continue and if anyone else can join them. Going down to the bottom, yeah, I didn't realise how many of these sides have actually had as bad of a start as they have. QPR, bottom, that's not great. We'll see how POMPEY and Cardiff get on now that they've started picking up points, and that's where I think Coventry, Millwall might have to start looking over their shoulders, and Plymouth and Sheffield Wednesday too. Maybe if they don't pick up enough points, Plymouth especially on the road might have to be a little bit careful. But that's my roundup of the Championship. I'll try and put a prediction video together in time for the midweek games, although I do feel like I'm probably not going to have time to predict them all for the midweek ones, but I will be back to round them up at least towards the end of this week before hopefully then trying to squeeze in a prediction video ahead of the weekend. We'll see. It is an incredibly busy schedule. But if you've enjoyed the video, do hit a like on the video and the channel. It is massively appreciated. Support the channel by subscribing and hitting the bell too so you never miss when a video drops. And leave me a comment below with your thoughts on your team and the results this weekend. But until next time, guys, do take care. I'll see you all in the next one.